Welcome to the Babies in Business Podcast. Join your hosts, Rachel and Avram Gonzalez, real-life parents and business partners. Each week on Babies in Business, Rachel and Avram create a space for entrepreneurial parents to find their own way. They'll dive into insights on topics like leadership, efficiency, self-awareness, budgeting, and human psychology as they nurture their family and build their business. Here's your hosts, Avram and Rachel.
Hey, it's Avram Gonzalez here with the Babies in Business Podcast, joined by my beautiful and lovely co-host, Miss Rachel Gonzalez. And today our topic is most of what we think is important isn't. And we're going to talk about a couple different things here today as how it relates to your business, your life, and starting a family, raising a family. And that's our dog snoring in the background. We're recording this. The baby's down right now. We're spending this little time that we have together to record this podcast for you, because you know what? That's what's important to us right now. But I want to take you back a little bit to the time when Lincoln was born and what happened as a result of his birth. The business changed, didn't it, hon?
It did. Significantly.
So we went from being like super active in the business on a daily basis to
mostly stressed out.
and like nowhere to
getting
be found.
nowhere.
We actually went a full 7 weeks where neither of us were doing anything in the business. Our team members held down the fort. Shout out to Lauren and Kim for doing what they do and keeping this train moving along. There was just literally no capacity to do anything. I remember thinking to myself, I'm not going to be working necessarily. There's going to be a lot of downtime. Maybe I'll take some notes. Maybe I'll outline a book.
With your spare time.
With my spare time. That didn't happen at all. And one of the things that we quickly realized was, especially as we came out of those first few months, we had very little time.
Yeah. Especially time together. Like you and me doing stuff together didn't happen at the beginning, but also the blocks of time that we had to do anything at all was really constrained.
Yeah, you didn't always know when those were going to happen.
Correct.
There's that element of not knowing. That certainly stresses a personality out that's like mine, where I just don't like surprises. It stresses out somebody like Rachel, who likes things on a schedule. It's like very predictable. Hey, I guess we're a lot alike in that way. One of the things that we figured out after all of that time off was actually how few things that we were doing on a day-to-day basis mattered.
Yeah, exactly. Because what we found is that while we were busy and we were stressed and we were putting out fires, we were doing saying none is pretty bold, but doing really very few things that really mattered, that would actually push our business forward. So we were able to actually get this almost like a third party perspective in our life and our business and see that things needed to change in a very drastic way in order for us to get what we wanted in our personal life as well as in our business, and to get anywhere close to where we wanted to be in both personal and business.
Yeah, and the ego takes a little bit of a hit too, because it's, wow, they didn't really need me when we were gone. What was so important that I felt so stressed on a day-to-day in the business? And so coming back in, we did have that fresh perspective, like you said, and we started to attack things in a very different way. And that's what we want to get into in the second part of this podcast here, is around identifying and understanding what is important to you versus what isn't. Because I think it is going to be different for each of us, but I want to help you with a little bit of a framework here to start figuring out what that is specifically for your business. Now, we may or may not get into super amount of detail about the family side and that big picture of your life here today. Maybe that's a future podcast, but we can definitely pin down the business piece here. And I want to call attention to a book that most entrepreneurs are aware of. And if they're not, this might be your first introduction to Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People and the distinction between what's urgent and what's important. So a lot of stuff that Rachel and I were talking about before the baby arrived was, like she said, putting out fires or really thinking things were urgent when maybe they weren't.
Yeah.
Versus what's important. So the urgent things are the things that are required for the day-to-day of the business to move forward. So that checklist that you have that's a mile deep, those are typically all of the urgent things. But Rachel, what are some of the important things, the big picture that you have to take a step back to work on that don't typically come up if you're just face down the business?
Yeah, you really lose sight of the things that you should be doing on a regular basis because it gets muddled in with that mile-long list. So really nailing down the things that must happen. If you nail that down, then when things come up that aren't expected and they could have potentially, or could have the potential to blow up your day, that it actually feels less of a detriment and it does less of a emotional damage or blow to your mental capacity because you know that the things that have to be done are done. So it's the things that have to happen all the time, but also what are you doing to move your business forward?
That's the
because
key.
If you are not actually, yes, the things that need to be done are getting done. You have those assigned. But what are you doing to advance your business? Are you able to talk about what you're going to do in the next year? How are your systems going to change? Do you need to bolster some systems because things keep breaking? Do you need to make sure that your onboarding is more on point because you keep having to chase clients down and they're not captive audiences? So there are a lot of different ways that you can deliver a better product but also move your business forward. And if we're not moving our business forward, like you said, this is key, then what are we doing?
Building a business while raising a family can be tough to juggle for any entrepreneur. Knowing where to focus and how to spend your limited time is critical to your success. That's why Babies in Business has produced and made available a fantastic audio resource for you. It's titled 5 Key Focus Areas to Build a Profitable Business Without Burnout. During this short training, Rachel and Avram peel back the curtain on their secrets to building a business that serves your family, your dreams, and beyond. To download your free copy of the 5 Key Focus Areas, go to babiesandbiz.com/download. Again, that's babiesandbiz, BIZ.com/download to get your free copy. We hope you enjoy. Now, back to the podcast.
Yeah. Good example of urgent versus important is like reading a book, education. That stuff is very important, but it's not urgent. Like you don't need to like do it right now.
Right.
Fire's not burning right now. But if you don't do it and one day turns into 30 days, turns into 1 year, you're so much further behind on, like you mentioned, you need to improve a process. Do you need to get some education to help with some part of the business or one of your team members? So the next thing we want to look at is like, how do you know what's important? And I'm going to make the distinction real simple here. You've heard of the phrase working in the business versus on the business. So literally there are only a couple of things that fall into the category of important and they need to be prioritized in the business. Otherwise, you will be chasing your tail for months and then months turn into years. And then you're not where you wanted to be when you look back. We learned this from a great mentor of ours, Adrienne Dorison, who's the owner and founder of Run Like Clockwork and the Clockwork Accelerator. She calls this design time, designing your business, working on the business. So building processes for people to follow. That's something that's working on the business. Doing your goal setting and planning. That's working on the business. Sometimes budgeting can be a part of working on the business. I'm thinking about some other things.
Like the vision. Where
Oh,
we're
right.
going.
Yeah, the vision. Looking at like your core values, the things that you stand for or against, and developing those things. Working on the culture of your business and maybe how you bring people in and how you bring people up as they work with you. These are all things that move the business forward versus just tending to the day-to-day. Every business has its customers and its clients who have requirements. They have paid you money and they're expecting a product or service in response. So you have those responsibilities and that's a given. But if all you're doing is tending to those needs, then you're just doing the same thing over and over. The business doesn't grow. Everything stagnates. You're going to lose a lot of the heart that you had for starting the business. And you just kind of repeat the same thing over and over.
Yeah. And I think one of the things that we developed because of the Run Like Clockwork Accelerator that has really benefited our business are the core values that we stand by and our vision. Where are we going? What are we doing?
Why?
Exactly. And developing our QBR, which is the Queen Bee role, which is the role that your business must fulfill at all cost. So what is that? We need to have great customer relationships here at Digital Harvest. So much of what we deliver is, and I know that this is babies in business, but we have a business and that's Digital Harvest. So much of what we do is intangible. You don't get to see everything all at once. Search engine optimization is a slow process, but what we can do is develop that relationship, make sure that we have their back, that we are their trusted advisor and thoughtful friend. And we have this one core value that I absolutely love, and it has come up multiple times and really served us well. And that is we create together. And what does that mean? It means that things aren't always going to go according to plan, period. That is a fact of life. But what do we do when it doesn't go according to plan? We could blame somebody. We could scoot it under the rug, or we could do something about it. And what we at Digital Harvest know we create together to mean to us is that we have some part to play in the breakdown of whatever happened. And when we take that ownership and then we ask the question, how did we participate in this? And how can we move forward? Then we've not actually given away the power to change it. We've actually owned it, and then we go forth and do something about it. So instead of getting mad at a client or getting mad at a partner or something else, we actually say, how did I contribute to this and move forward? And I've just seen that serve us over and over in so many ways to help us understand what is important. Because if we're not taking responsibility for something when something goes wrong, we're definitely not serving our clients to the best of our ability.
And I had read books, and I'd gone to schools. Okay, I'd gone to schools. I got the letters behind the name, and they talk about having a company culture and defining those values. And I've heard this so many times, and I didn't do it. Why? Because I was so stuck in catering to what was urgent in my business for years before I took my head up long enough and put the time aside to focus on what's important. I created these core values before Rachel joined the business full time. And look at how well she articulated that and spoke it so passionately. That's what is the result of focusing on what's important.
Yeah.
Is lighting that fire under a team member and creating something that people can actually move even without you.
Yeah. Something that someone is actually really proud to be a part of. We know a company here in town in Albuquerque, New Mexico, that the name, we've actually been told by another business professional that they would never join this business because of the name. When we're, as business owners, we get the opportunity to make a culture that people would be proud of, a name that people would be proud of, those kinds of things. So I know that started with the name of a business, but just remembering what's important. And what's important is the things that actually move your business forward, move your culture forward.
And so keep that in the forefront of your mind. Maybe there are things that are on your list right now that just seem a mile deep. Guess what? They're still going to be there tomorrow. But your business, your customers, your clients, your team members are waiting, and they're ready for you to make those important things the priority that will move everybody forward. That's it for today on the Babies in Business podcast. We appreciate you for tuning in. If you'd like to say, hey, you can always shoot us an email at hello@babiesinbiz.com. If you got ideas for a new podcast topic, some questions or something that you'd like us to answer, we're there. Please connect with us on social media and If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button wherever you're hanging out listening to us right now, whether that's iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, somewhere else. We appreciate you tuning in. We'll catch you on the next one. Bye for now.
Bye for now.
Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of the Babies in Business podcast. Who do you know that would benefit from hearing this episode? Share it with them and post about it on social media. You can find the show notes for this episode, free downloads, and connect with the rest of the community at babiesandbiz.com. We'll see you next time.